I'm live. What's up, everybody? I don't know if people are logging in or not, but it's Rich Auntie reporting for duty. I'll probably repeat this again in a second or two. Um, but yeah, okay, so I'm Autumn. I am a Black queer femme woman, very proudly intersectional. What up, Pastor? And celebrating the end of Pride Month, but Pride never stops. And so, shout out to the LGBTQ plus community and all lovers of people who find themselves in that community, because we know the greatest commandment is our theological framework at TFC and beyond. And it basically reminds us that we love God, we love ourselves, we love others. We show our love for God in the way that we love others, and we cannot love others if we don't love ourselves. So, as we approach the end of the month, we have a new beginning. We're starting July, and at TFC, we're transitioning to July as a month of rest. So, I wanted to talk about rest today. Actually, I wanted to talk about radical rest. And I'm going to start with a little story. So, I moved from Maryland. I lived in Maryland for 5 years. My grandmother passed away in 2015, and I had this dream. And I don't know if it was like a vision of her speaking to me. Ancestors do speak, right? So I don't know if it was that or if it was a flashback. But in that moment, my grandmother spoke to me and was chastising me in only the way that Barbara Eggleston could. And she was basically telling me, like, you and your mama, girl, you just gonna work the church to death. You gonna let the church be everything. And she was like, you have so much more gifts than just being, a pastor or a worship leader or a servant of the Most High God in the local congregation. And she was like, you are gifted to teach. And she reminded me of some things that I had said that I would do. And one of those things was get my doctorate. So I quickly prayed about it. I was a deeply prayer warrior intercessor at that time of my life. Have my little fasting and praying, and I got clarity, spiritual clarity. And I was like, well, I'm gonna just apply, because, the first step of faith is just your work matching that faith. So I'm like, let me try and put some feelers out. I applied for hundreds of jobs for weeks. No hits, and I'm a highly qualified bomb ass educator, you know what I'm saying? So I was just very frustrated. And I knew that well, maybe, but I feel like as people, especially people who are spiritually, we know the verse is all things work together, and we know we're supposed to have this plan for our life. We think we know. And so, like, in the back of my mind, I had all of that. But then I had my lived experience, which was no callbacks, rejection. And I remember I just gave up, not giving up like, oh, F this, but just like, you know what, me being emotional and stressed about this, it's nothing good going to come of it. So I've put the applications out. I'm enjoying my summer vacation. And literally within a few days of me shifting my perspective and shifting my body's response and like releasing that anxiety and that need to have control, I got a call and I got a job. And then I had another offer immediately following that. So I had choices, and that shifted me to Maryland. But while I was in Maryland, I had moved. I had dreams of leadership. I started my doc program. I started having a lot of issues with racial microaggressions and macroaggressions, and being told I need to tame myself down, and my afro was too big and I come off as aggressive. And I'm like, or are you questionable, possibly racist? And so all of those little darts started wearing me down. And I was like in this mindset where I was like, well, the world perceives me as this angry, big, loud Black woman. So I have to tone myself down to be respectable, and I have to move a certain way to get the promotions that I need. So I played that game for a few years, didn't work out. And I went through rounds of applications to be a vice principal, was rejected. After a year of slaving, literally, at my school, doing extra projects, extra free labor, no compensation, just a possible recommendation for this admin job. And then the ultimate slap on the face was my principal at the time. Bless him, Lord. Because I was about to cuss on God's internet. My principal at the time, he could have selected me to be like an admin intern since I didn't get selected for the vice principal job. And he picked somebody else. There were like six highly qualified Black female teachers who had applied from within his school. He didn't promote us. He picked somebody else. And I was vindicated later because that man ended up not being worth anything and left that job swiftly. But I lost a piece of my community in that school. And so at the end of that season of rejection, by end of that school year, again, just this is going to make sense in a minute, the time frame, but I got to the summer vacation and I got to the end of my anxiety and depression and stress and just feeling extremely dysregulated in my physical body, which was then in turn affecting my mental health, my physical health, the way that I reacted towards others. Like I was definitely not 100% loving towards my neighbor. But again, how can you be when you don't love yourself? So after all of that and the tears, I was like, you know what? Let me just fall back. There's a plan for my life. God, the divine, whoever you are outside of me that is in control of everything, like I'm knowing what my locus of control is, and I don't want to have anxiety to the extent that I control it. Now, are there times when I can't? No. Do I hold space for myself? Grace. But there are things that I can actively do to contribute to my de-escalation or escalation. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to have a good summer vacation. I went to Florida with one of my friends at the time. I came to Atlanta. We drove through Atlanta, got some peaches through Georgia. And I was like, all right, I have to go back to this school and humble myself because everybody was like, when we were interviewing, they're like, oh, Miss Clay, I can't wait till people hype you up. Like, yeah, girl, you got it. No, I didn't have it. It wasn't there. The person in charge had a different plan. But I had found this like extreme degree of peace and rest in that summer break and gave it all up and was like, you know what? I love my job. I love kids. As long as I'm doing those two things, I'm good. And then I got a call that I was requested by the deputy superintendent at that time to be placed at a specific school as the admin intern. And that was a school where I fell in love with my Black ass woman principal. And I was allowed to be my full self. The kids loved me and I saw a lot of growth and just family growth and healing. And it really reminded me why I'm a teacher, why I'm an educator, why I'm in schools, and why it is so important for me to prioritize radical rest as my resistance and, as my lifestyle, because it helps me be able to live the greatest commandment. So I took a few notes. I wanted to tell that story for us so you would have some context. But summer is usually the time when I like rest, but I've tried to make everyday summer vacation. I try to find a way to break away from the loudness that is this ghetto earth. Okay. I don't know where you are, but if you're in America like me, I don't know if it's Hunger Games. I don't know if it's Squid Games. I don't know if it's Purge. I don't know what is going on, but the middle school teacher who taught dystopian novels in me is alarmed and fear is constant. And so I've had to work through that. This summer, I have found working through that in rest. And one of the resources that I use, because this is not my idea, this is an age-old idea that different people have expressed in different ways for their generation. So I love Nap Ministry, which she's on Instagram and has a website, but they call her the Nap Bishop. Her name is Trisha Hersey, and she talks about how rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. So it's deeply rooted in like Black liberation theology, womanist theology, and Afrofuturism, which is like, yes, everything I need in my life right now. Deconstructing and decolonizing, you got to fill those gaps with, knowledge that you intuitively know and that has been proven through faith and ancestors and all of that stuff. But I'm finding that in my rest, I'm constantly, now that I've kind of established it as a practice and trying to do it on a daily basis, it's like I realize how my mind is constantly running, right? Constantly. And it's sometimes very difficult to shut it down. But I recognize that as what Trisha calls the effects of generational exhaustion and racial trauma. Okay. And I'm not a person that is just like super Pan-African, although I can present that way at times. But this is a message for marginalized communities. I'm speaking from a Black liberated experience, but any marginalized identity can probably relate to the fact that there is generational exhaustion and racial trauma in your lineage. And there's a lot of resources now that are talking about how that trauma, that epigenetic trauma, comes across in our lives. And one of the things that I was reading about was Black women health, mortality rates, how our mortality rates are really not good. And it's a lot to do with the structures of generational exhaustion, racial trauma, white supremacy, and capitalism. So it is our responsibility to show ourselves love by resting. So there's 3 points I want to give you real quick. I don't even know where my time is. Okay, I'm gonna stay on time. The 3 points that I want to leave you with are: 1, rest is righteous. Okay. I'm not a Bible scholar. I grew up Baptist, so Bible was God, but I still do find encouragement, even as I critique and evolve in some of my understanding of scriptures. But when I look at Jesus, I was looking at Mark 4, and, the storm was going crazy. The NRSV version says Jesus had a pillow and was asleep. What? There are storms, but I'm going to sleep. Okay. I'm going to rest and make sure my body gets what she needs. And knowing that refusal to rest is an act of rebellion against my body. And it's against the faith that I have in my body to heal itself. Okay. Second point is actually a TFC key. Rest is disruptive. Okay. The white supremacist capitalist structure, and I know these are big blah blah words, but we have to address the structure that we exist in and the American context was created in. It views us as machines in terms of our labor, our productivity, and even all the tools that we have, like social media, to connect. It can so easily become a tool of comparison, a tool to let me get my likes up. Oh, I didn't post today. Oh, I didn't get enough affirmation outside of me today. We are not consumable products. We are divine beings in a human body. And this body will not be able to sustain your divinity if you do not rest. So rest is righteous, rest is disruptive, and thirdly, rest is required. Okay. As I said, that last little piece, baby, you human. Okay. Everything inside you might be sparkly and alchemy, but you have a body that is decaying every day. This flesh, this dirty, rotten flesh, if you grew up in a sanctified household, is decaying. And we can do what we can, like, to prolong our life so that we can control what is within us. I know that with the intergenerational trauma and the epigenetic trauma, there are health things that we are predisposed to. And it's important to have that knowledge so that we do not perish, because that's why we perish. So rest is required scientifically and biologically. I found this article and it said that there were 8 things that happen when we rest. Okay. There are 8 body structures that are functioning. So our energy conservation, there's cellular restoration, our brain function is restored. Come on, restoration. Our emotional well-being is impacted, weight maintenance, insulin function, immunity, heart health. That's everything with your whole natural body. Okay. So I'm not trying to be funny, but like, I went to Cancun. This is my wrap up story. I went to Cancun with my family. First of all, oh my God, I love my family so much. My littles are at the age where they talk and they like pop culture and history. They watching Martin. They showing me their little anime and their little Japanese pop bands that I don't support because child labor. But anyhow, we're just having fun. So I had this like Hallelujah Cancun Caribbean vacation. Got a little chocolate because I like to get browner in the summer. And I came back and I was still tired. So I slept for like 3 days. And then I got up and did something with my friends. And, I've had church and I've had meetings, but I've literally been resting, sleeping, laying on my couch, laying in my little radical rest room that I'm creating. And I feel so good. SCOTUS is done for the year. Thank God. Hopefully, I don't know, Handmaid's Tale in the comments. But all of this stuff in the outside world, this hot Atlanta hellfire on earth, it makes me afraid to believe the hell is not real. Because if it's anything like this hot Atlanta heat, baby, we perish. But I digress. The points that I was making was that I am learning to rest. And with each level of understanding comes more responsibility and accountability, like that message that was preached on Sunday from our fiery pastor. Make sure that you are resting, because rest is righteous, rest is disruptive, and rest is required. It'll help you not snap on the people you love and show the good commandment in action, the greatest commandment, loving God, loving self, loving others, because that's how we will be known. So y'all stay cool, stay alive. If you're Black, be careful in these Twitter and real life streets, and just find joy, find rest. I mean, this holiday that I no longer celebrate is coming up, and I'm going to be resting and resisting, because that is what radical rest does. I will live another day to fuck up white supremacy in another way. All of this brown girl glory on display. Y'all have a good day. I love y'all. Share it with a friend. Don't forget to rest and lay down. Go watch that video of that girl singing it. I'm not going to sing it right now.